Think about the last decision you made, not a big one, a small, ordinary one. Maybe clicking on this video, maybe deciding not to skip it. It feels obvious that you made that choice consciously, that you thought about it, decided, and then acted. That feeling of control feels natural, almost invisible because you experience it every day. But here is the uncomfortable truth. By the time you became aware of that decision, your brain had already made it. You didn't choose first. You became aware of a choice that was already in motion. Once you understand this, the way you experience your own decisions will never feel the same again. From an early age, we are taught a simple story about how the mind works. First we think, then we decide, and finally we act. This sequence feels correct because it matches how decisions feel from the inside. You experience a thought, then a sense of intention, and then an action follows. It feels linear and controlled. But neuroscience shows that this story is misleading. Inside your brain, decisions begin long before you are conscious of them. They start as patterns of neural activity, spreading silently, preparing actions before you ever feel like you chose. This process is happening constantly, even when you are not aware of it. Your brain is always evaluating information, predicting outcomes, and preparing responses. When you reach for your phone, when you respond to a message, when you choose what to eat, your brain has already processed countless signals before the decision reaches awareness. Consciousness does not initiate these actions. It arrives after much of the work is already done. In the 1980s, neuroscientists began running simple experiments that would challenge everything we thought we knew about choice. Participants were asked to perform easy actions, such as pressing a button or moving a finger, whenever they felt like it. There was no pressure and no planning involved. They were also asked to report the exact moment they became aware of deciding to move. While they did this, researchers measured their brain activity with precise instruments. What they discovered was surprising. The brain showed clear signs of decision-making hundreds of milliseconds before participants reported conscious awareness of choosing. The decision was already unfolding in the brain before awareness appeared. At first, this time gap may seem small. A fraction of a second does not sound important. But this small delay reveals something profound. It shows that your brain does not wait for consciousness to give instructions. It is already preparing actions before you feel involved. Conscious awareness does not lead the process. It follows it. The feeling of "I decided" is not the beginning. It is the brain updating you on what is already happening. If this is true, why does decision-making feel so personal and intentional? Why does it feel like you are in control? The answer lies in how the brain creates meaning. Your brain is not only a decision-making system, it is also a storytelling system. After an action begins, consciousness constructs a narrative that makes the action feel intentional. You wanted this. You chose this. This reflects who you are. The story feels seamless, which is why it rarely feels false. But it is a story created after the fact, not before. This does not mean you are powerless or controlled like a machine. It means control works differently than we assume. Consciousness is not a commander issuing orders. It behaves more like an observer and interpreter. It watches decisions unfold and then explains them. Your experience of choice is real, but it is not where decisions originate. This idea becomes easier to understand when you look at everyday life. Think about how often you act automatically. You walk familiar routes without thinking. You type responses without planning each word. You react emotionally before you analyze why. In these moments, your brain is relying on learned patterns. Consciousness arrives afterward, making sense of what just happened. You tell yourself a reason, even when the action was automatic. The same mechanism explains why regret feels the way it does. You make a decision, and only later do you imagine alternatives. At the moment of action, your brain did not consciously evaluate every possible option. It acted based on patterns, habits, and predictions. Reflection happens afterward, once the outcome is known. The feeling of "I should have chosen differently" is consciousness rewriting the story after the fact. This also explains why we defend our choices so strongly. Once a decision is made, the brain works to protect coherence. It searches for reasons, justifications, and explanations that make the choice feel intentional and correct. This is not dishonesty. It is cognitive stability. The brain prefers a consistent story over an accurate one. Understanding this changes how you see yourself. The sense of being a conscious decision maker is not an illusion, but it is incomplete. You are not a single moment of awareness issuing commands. You are a system shaped by patterns, habits, learning, and biology. Consciousness plays a role, but not as the starting point. It helps integrate actions into a story that feels unified and meaningful. This is only the beginning, because if decisions start before awareness, then memory, identity, and free will must be re-examined. In the next part, we will explore how memory works in the same way, how the brain does not replay the past, but rebuilds it, and how this process shapes who you believe you are. If your brain begins decisions before you are aware of them, memory follows a similar rule. Most people believe memory works like a recording, that when you remember something, you are accessing a stored version of the past, unchanged and reliable. It feels as if the past is preserved somewhere inside your mind, waiting to be replayed. But neuroscience shows that this intuition is wrong. Memory does not replay the past. It reconstructs it. Every time you remember something, your brain rebuilds that memory in the present moment. It does not retrieve a fixed file. Instead, it assembles fragments of information. Visual details, sounds, emotions, context, and meaning. These pieces are combined to create a memory that feels complete and familiar. Because the process is fast and seamless, you experience it as remembering. But what you are actually experiencing is a reconstruction. This reconstruction process explains why memories feel so real, even when they are inaccurate. The brain does not signal uncertainty. A reconstructed memory can feel just as vivid and emotional as an accurate one. From the inside, there is no difference. Confidence is not a sign of truth. It is a sign that the brain has created a coherent story. Neuroscience has identified a key mechanism behind this process. When a memory is recalled, it becomes temporarily unstable. During this brief period, the memory can be altered before it is stored again. This process is called reconsolidation. It means that remembering is not neutral. Each act of recall opens the memory to change. This is why memories evolve over time. Small details shift without you noticing. The emotional tone of the memory can intensify or fade. New information can quietly merge into the original event. Over time, the original version becomes harder to access, even though your certainty may increase. What remains feels authentic, but it may no longer reflect what actually happened. One of the most striking consequences of this process is the formation of false memories. A false memory is not a lie or a conscious invention. It is a genuine experience of remembering something that did not occur in the way you believe it did. These memories can be detailed, emotional, and deeply convincing. The brain does not label them as false. To your mind, they feel real. This explains why people can sincerely remember events that never happened, or remember real events in dramatically different ways. Two people can witness the same situation and later give conflicting accounts. Both can be confident, both can feel certain, and both can be wrong. Memory prioritizes coherence over accuracy. Suggestion plays a powerful role in this process. When new information is introduced during recall, it can become integrated into the memory itself. A question, a comment, or even a subtle implication can reshape how an event is remembered later. Over time, the brain blends these additions seamlessly into the memory. The boundary between what was experienced and what was suggested disappears. The brain allows this because memory is not designed to preserve the past. It is designed to help you function in the present and prepare for the future. From an evolutionary perspective, usefulness matters more than precision. The brain reshapes memories to guide behavior, reinforce learning, and anticipate outcomes. Accuracy is secondary to survival. This trade-off explains many everyday experiences. It explains why childhood memories change as you grow older, why emotional memories feel stronger than neutral ones, and why the most frequently recalled memories are often the least reliable. Each recall strengthens belief, not accuracy. Repetition reinforces confidence, even as details drift. Memory reconstruction also plays a central role in identity. Much of who you believe you are is built from remembered experiences. Your sense of self is a narrative constructed from the past. But if memories are constantly being rebuilt, then identity itself is not fixed. It is flexible and adaptive. This flexibility allows people to change. It allows you to reinterpret past experiences in light of new information. Events that once felt insignificant can later feel defining. Experiences that once felt painful can lose their emotional charge. The brain revisits the past through the lens of the present, adjusting the story to maintain coherence. When memory and decision-making are considered together, a clear pattern emerges. The brain acts first and explains later. Decisions unfold before awareness. Memories are rewritten after recall. Conscious experience sits between these processes, observing and narrating. It feels central, but it is not the origin of everything that happens. This can be unsettling because it challenges the idea of a stable, controlling self. But it also explains why disagreements about the past feel so intense, why people defend their memories fiercely, and why changing someone's memory can feel like changing who they are. Memory and identity are deeply intertwined. Understanding this does not mean you lose agency or responsibility. It means agency operates on a different level. You may not consciously control each memory or decision, but you influence the patterns that shape them. Habits, repeated experiences, and environments slowly rewire the brain. Over time, these changes affect how memories are reconstructed and how future decisions are made. In this sense, awareness still matters, not as a moment-by-moment controller, but as a long-term guide. Reflection does not correct the past. It shapes how the brain learns from it. Each time you reflect, you are not fixing a memory. You are influencing the future version of yourself. In the final part, we will bring these ideas together. If the brain decides before awareness and memory constantly rewrites the past, what does that mean for free will, responsibility, and control? And once you understand how the mind really works, how should that change the way you live? If the brain begins decisions before awareness, and memory rewrites the past each time it is recalled, then the idea of free will needs to be re-examined. This does not mean that free will disappears. It means that it does not exist where we intuitively place it. It is not a single moment of conscious command. It is a process that unfolds across time. Most people imagine free will as the ability to choose differently in any given moment. But neuroscience suggests that what feels like a sudden choice is actually the result of many processes already in motion. Habits, emotions, expectations, and prior learning shape decisions before awareness appears. Consciousness does not initiate these factors. It observes them. This explains why so many decisions feel automatic, why you often act before thinking, why you sometimes realize what you wanted only after you have already acted. The brain is not waiting for permission. It is constantly predicting and preparing. Awareness arrives once a decision has already gained momentum. This does not remove responsibility. Instead, it shifts where responsibility lives. Control is not found in a single instant of choice. It is built over time. Each repeated action strengthens certain neural patterns. Each environment you spend time in shapes how your brain responds. Each habit you practice makes future decisions more likely. In this sense, freedom exists, but it operates quietly. You may not consciously choose every action, but you influence the conditions that shape your choices. You choose what you repeat. You choose what you pay attention to. You choose what you expose yourself to. These choices slowly reshape the brain's decision-making systems. Understanding this changes how you relate to yourself and others. It encourages patience rather than judgment. It explains why change takes time. And it reveals why willpower alone is often not enough. Lasting change happens when patterns change, not when intentions appear. Awareness still plays a role, but not as a commander. It acts as a guide. Reflection allows you to notice patterns. Learning allows you to adjust them. Over time, these adjustments influence how the brain decides in the future. Control is not about forcing choices in the moment. It is about shaping the system that produces them. When you see the mind this way, identity becomes less rigid. You are not defined by a single decision or memory. You are defined by evolving patterns. The story you experience as you is not fixed. It is continuously rewritten as the brain learns and adapts. This understanding can be unsettling, but it can also be liberating. If the self is not a fixed controller, then change is always possible. You are not trapped by past decisions or memories. You are shaped by them, but not imprisoned by them. So the next time you feel like you are not fully in control, remember this. Control does not disappear because the brain decides before awareness. It simply exists on a deeper level. And learning how that level works may be the most powerful form of freedom you can have.